Hey there, Bible buddies. I've got another Bible review for you today, and this one is a Doubleday Jerusalem Bible. Now, if you guys haven't heard of the Jerusalem Bible before, this is something that was popular, well, many decades ago now, maybe in the 70s and 80s. This edition is from 1980, so it's certainly a much older edition. Man, it feels so crazy thinking that 1980 was criminy 45 years ago. This is a 45-year-old Bible because it certainly has a lot of kind of a lot of takes from like what you would see in kind of modern Bible production. So it's just interesting to see some of these older things kind of carrying over to modern day Bible production. So let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll take a close look at it and see. So we'll start with this cover. It's very obviously a unique cover. The grain is just amazing. It's a very nice grain, very sort of distinguished grain, and you can see that it does have that imprinted kind of Jerusalem Bible logo here on the cover. And again, this is something that you didn't see so very much, kind of with older covers that were thinner, like pigskin covers and those sorts of things that were, I mean, they used like really such a thin leather. It probably would have torn when they did something like this. But this is definitely a nicer kind of like leather stock, and it's definitely much thicker than kind of what you would see in like genuine leather Bibles. So it's interesting that they chose to do that, because I think that that's something that's definitely more modern of a touch, but it's nice to see. As far as the spine goes, we have just the Jerusalem Bible marking there. And it says Doubleday in the bottom. And then we have these kind of double line imprints here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them kind of spanning the spine there. They're not really raised or anything. They're just kind of impressed there. And on the back, we have more of that wonderful grain. It really is a nice grain. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. It's not indicated as anything. It almost feels like a full grain because it is, again, it's a fairly thick cover. I don't know if they put some kind of batting material or something like that in between the liner and the leather, if that's just the kind of natural thickness of the leather, but it is just a fairly nice leather. Yeah, just a nice leather overall. As far as other quality, as far as other details on the exterior, we have white head and tail bands, and it's just a gold or goldish. I don't know if this is actual gold. It doesn't look like real gold, but kind of a gold colored foil there on the edges of the pages. And we do have a ribbon, and it is a fairly cheap ribbon. It's not satin on either side. It's just kind of a fabric ribbon there, coming in about a 3/8 inch. It looks like, so kind of standard as far as that goes. Go ahead and get into it. It is a synthetic paste down, and thankfully, well, no, I guess it hasn't. It's held up as far as maybe like this side is concerned, right? It hasn't really cracked or anything here with use, but you can see it has cracked here, kind of at the split. And this is something I'm really concerned about with modern Cambridge Bibles. They use a synthetic liner as well. Theirs is fairly beefy and heavy duty, but I would imagine it's probably going to go the same way. I'm not really too sure why these like ultra nice editions use synthetic liners. I always feel like it's such a miss. If you're going to spend the money on like a really nice cover like this, spend the extra money and just do a leather liner, because it's certainly going to last longer than this has. We'll take a look at the corner work. It is very tidy and very neatly done. And it's just like a black kind of glossy material for the liner. Nothing to write home about. And you can see, look, the whole, I might have to, I don't know, I might leave that the way it is, but yeah, it's definitely splitting all the way up. Maybe I'll tape it before I send it out, but no promises. I never know like what's going to look better. Is it going to look better split like this, or is it going to look better with like a big honking piece of tape? I wish I had some like black, I don't know, maybe something a little more professional. Not electrical tape or anything like that, but something nice. But we'll see. It'll probably just go the way it is. I have so many Bibles to review. I don't really have time to repair anymore or clean anymore. I haven't actually purchased a vintage Bible in like, I think maybe close to a year now, something like that. It's been quite a while, so I've just been trying to get through what I have and make some room in my life. There's quite a lot of Bibles still that I have to go through for you guys. So we'll just mosey on. So we have the Jerusalem Bible title page here, the first one. And then we have the general editor there as Alexander Jones. And then we have the second title page here. It says Reader's Edition. And I would agree with that to an extent. It does have some like additional kind of helps at the beginning of each book, and we'll see that in a second. And then you can see here this very familiar looking logo here. There's a fairly large Bible producer that uses this logo. If only I could think of their name, but this is known as the Jerusalem Cross here. And obviously this is the Jerusalem Bible, so it makes sense why they would have gone with it. And then at the bottom you can see just Doubleday and Company Inc. So, and their information. On the reverse of that page, it looks like we have a little bit of printing information. about this specific one, and it does appear that it was printed in the 5th month of 1980. So any other pertinent information there? On the opposite side, we have the editor's foreword. Then we have a typographical note. Reverse side, we have the table of contents. And a list of abbreviations, along with probably somebody's phone number. No area code, so I guess we're out of luck as far as dialing it up. Maybe if you want to dial it up in your own area code, I'll let me know who you got. But otherwise, a list of abbreviations for the books of the Bible. And then the Old Testament title page. And then we have a little article on an introduction to the Pentateuch. So just about a page and a half, and then it gets into Genesis. Now, we'll take a look here. Genesis, and it says it's marked here as number 1, the origin of the world and of mankind, and then there's kind of a sub annotation here that says the creation and the fall, and then it gets into the biblical text. Now again, this is a reader's edition, so obviously it's a single column paragraph, so it's very nicely done. And what they've done there is they've moved the verse numbers out to the outer edge there. So you can see now, it's whenever they do this sort of a presentation, it's a little bit of a guesswork because it's not really too clear. Like at what point does it start on the line, right? A safe assumption is typically like where the period falls in the line would be the next verse. But it looks like here what they're doing is they're putting bullets to indicate the next verse. So you can see here a bullet at the beginning of. Let me see if I can zoom in enough. At the beginning of let, and then God, and then kind of all throughout there's little bullets. So I'm assuming that's what they're using to indicate that that's the new verse, which is nice. Typically, at the beginning of the sentence would probably be a safe assumption. Although I know there's a couple different sections where the verses break like midline, break mid-thought, break mid-sentence. Even like chapters will break in like the middle of a sentence, which gets a little odd. But neither here nor there, right? So that's how God saw fit to number it, right? And so we'll look at the bottom there. There are some footnotes. And I'll flip a little bit more, and we'll take a look at some more footnotes and things as we go. So there's a couple little different things here and there. Now, you can see there's a little section here of some poetry. And there are kind of running headers here throughout. So this says Seth and his descendants, and then the patriarchs before the flood. So you have some double line numerals here indicating the chapters. You have the page number, not the page numbers, page numbers, yes. Page numbers in the top gutter, and then you have the starting book and verse. I always get tongue-tied with these, and then the ending book and verse. So on the opposite sides of the page, so you can kind of see where it starts up here, and then where it ends down here, and then you just have the book name up in the top center. And the layout is fairly nice. The paper is fairly nice. It's a nice kind of bone-colored paper, kind of a creamier paper. The only issue that I have kind of out the gate, and I noticed it fairly immediately when I opened this, it's just the size of the font. If this is a reader's edition, the leading is nice. It's a good, like, essentially portable size, but the font looks fairly small. And especially for me, I'm getting up in my years. I don't want to date myself, but I'm getting higher and higher in the years, and the pit minions are no longer looking super fantastic to me. So something like this could probably end up being a bear, especially if I'm reading towards the evening or something like that. So let's go to the beginning of Samuel here, and we'll see if we can catch a little bit of that extra information. No, I don't see it here either. I wonder if they have a separate section for like the prophets. Well, we'll just flip through and we'll see. I thought they had like a little kind of a section explaining it, kind of like what they had with the Pentateuch in the beginning of each book, but it might just be for the beginning of each section. So we'll keep flipping through. Go ahead and get on over to the Psalms. You can see lovely poetic formatting here. That's nice. Yeah, very nice poetic formatting. We'll stop and we'll take a look right here at Psalm 115. So normally the way that most of these Bibles, when they do the formatting for the poetry sections, they'll just run the line all the way to the end and then just stick one or two words on a separate line. And to me, that never looks good. It doesn't really look like poetry. It just kind of looks like a 50% try, right? But something like this is very nice, right? You can see that the lines are broken fairly evenly, right? They tend to be broken here with commas, or where they kind of flow and make sense. So I like seeing that, right? And here you can see they're using God's name here, transliterated, not the tetragrammaton, but the transliteration of that. So it's just interesting to see how they took the time to edit the formatting there. You don't often see that. So let's go to Psalm 19. And they don't have the characters, but they do have the transliterations there on the outer edge. You can see them. That's nicely handled, nicely done. I'll keep flipping some more through it. Let's get to the New Testament, maybe. We'll see something there. For the beginning of Matthew. So here we have the end of Malachi, and then we have the New Testament title page, and then we have an introduction to the Synoptic Gospels, and then about a page and a half again, and then it gets into Matthew. And it is interesting they use poetic formatting here on the genealogy section, and again a little footnote down there. And you can see this is not a red letter text. So here we're in Matthew 4, 5, or 5, 6, and 7. And there's no red letter, so it's just a black letter text. Nothing too crazy. And let's show you some more footnotes down there. Looks like there might be a few cross-references well, kind of mixed in. I see one there for Isaiah 29:13. So maybe just telling you where the quotes are pointing, you know. All right, so let's go ahead and actually let's go to John, the beginning of John, and we'll check and see if there's a separate section, because I had a little section on the Synoptic Gospels, but I wonder if they'll have a separate section on John, giving us a little introduction. So I'll come back one page here. It does look like there's some additional material, so it might just be kind of broken up into sections. Yeah, so we have an introduction to the Gospel and letters of St. John. So it's got another brief, about a page and a half little explanation section here, and I'll go ahead and show you guys what's included. So it's got some information on the date and authorship and form of the gospel, and then it looks like a little breakdown, kind of a table of contents of what's going on, and then special characteristics of the gospel, excuse me, and a little section on his letters. So so I would imagine it's probably the beginning of each section, so they'll probably have one for maybe minor prophets, major prophets, that sort of thing. Not particularly in every single book. So we'll keep flipping till we get to the end. So we get to the end here, Revelation 22. And then we have a chronological table after that. And it goes into a little bit of a chronology. I'll hold it up for you guys so you can see. You want to pause and take a look? Certainly more than welcome to. And that goes on for a few pages, the chronological table. And I think that might be it. Nope, one last little thing, or two last little things. You have the measures of money, tables of approximate equivalents. And then you have, just monetary equivalents on the back side of that. And just the ISBN number. Funny enough, I guess by 1980 they were using those. We don't often get ISBN numbers in the back of Bibles, but there's the one for the Jerusalem Bible if you guys feel like looking it up. And then just a few blank pages. Fairly nice, thicker paper, not quite cardstock or anything like that, but it's just a thicker paper, perfect for notes or that sort of thing. Again, apologies for whoever gets this next. You might want to throw some sort of black tape on there or something. But yeah, definitely a nice addition. Again, the only thing for me is the font size is a little too small. Paper's beautiful. Leather is absolutely stunning and beautiful. Some of the, if you noticed, I don't know, maybe if you guys noticed throughout my flipping, it did seem like there was a little bit of print inconsistency, where some pages looked a little bit lighter than other pages, but I didn't really see like a ton of that, just a little bit here and there. So just an aside, I guess. Let me get you some measurements, and then we'll mosey on. So this comes in at 7 5/8 inches tall by about 4 3/4 inches wide. and just shy of 1.5 inches thick. So a fairly I guess this would be hand size. Let's go ahead and take a look at this font. Again, it is fairly diminutive. So we'll look at the P input here. And I'm starting pretty low on the scale, and already I've tapped out. So it's about a 7.5 point font versus Times New Roman for the uppercase. The lowercase here, I'll use the N and never, is it's getting kind of small. Yeah. It's about a 7 point, sadly, right? It's about a 7 point font versus Times New Roman for the lowercase. So I would definitely say about a 7 point font all the way around for the entire Bible. And that's probably the one big miss, right? Is that it has that diminutive font, which is sad because this is supposed to be a reader's edition. Now, if I remember correctly, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I feel like I did see like maybe a large print on eBay at one point. So maybe if this is a little too small for you and you're interested in it, maybe you could, try searching for a large print version. Maybe you might have some luck. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like maybe I saw at one point a large print Jerusalem Bible, because this is bordering on a little small. I mean, I really couldn't imagine reading, the whole entire Bible in 7 point font. It's getting kind of a daunting idea for me. But one thing I did notice is Tobit here. Again, not again, because I don't think I mentioned it originally, but the Jerusalem Bible does also include some of the apocryphal books, the Apocrypha. Let's go ahead and flip back to the beginning to the table of contents. Those kind of sneaky-eyed folks probably saw it, and we'll see if it looks like they're just mixed in. So, so there's a footnote down here. It says, there's a bullet, and it says, some editions of the Bible have not admitted these deuterocanonical books or parts of books. In the case of Esther, the passages, and it gives you specific passages in Esther, which are printed in italic type. And in Daniel, the passages, again, it gives you the passage span. And then it says, or have included them only as Apocrypha. Now, if you guys are familiar with how the Apocrypha or the Deuterocanon or the Deuterocanonical books or pseudepigrapha, what the history is behind those, I don't really want to get into it here. Maybe I'll do a separate video at some point. But if you're familiar with the history of it, you will know that these books were never removed from the Bible, like a lot of people like to tout. These books simply never made it into the Bible on the forefront, right? So most people do not consider them scripture, right? We consider them as, we don't consider them as inspired. Certainly they're not inspired by God. They're just kind of extra writings that are beneficial for study, beneficial for a historical perspective, beneficial for reading, but are not to be held to the same standard as God's holy word, certainly. So you can see here that there's little bullets, I guess, calling out for those specific books. You have Tobit and Judith, Esther, or, the section in Esther, I guess. And it does have a little indication there, introduction to the book of Maccabees. And then you have the first and second book of Maccabees. And then you have the book of Wisdom and Ecclesiasticus. And then Daniel, as I mentioned, a few chapters there. There's Baruch. And that appears to be it. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What would that be? From 66 to 75? 66 to 75 minus 2, 73. I guess that would be the Catholic canon. Certainly somebody can correct me down below. I could swear that the Catholic canon was 73 books, if it's 73 books or not versus 66. So if that's the case, cool. Those are the books that are included along with the notes on them. So the Jerusalem Bible does include those, which is interesting because I've always wanted to read the Apocrypha. I've read a few books here and there out of the Apocrypha, not all of them. And I actually have on my Amazon wish list. I recently saw on Amazon they had a collection of, I think it was 150 apocryphal texts and pseudepigrapha and the Deuterocanon and all this sort of thing. And I'm curious if maybe I'll snag it for Christmas or something like that and treat myself and sit down and read it one of these days and go through all of those. But yeah, Bible Buddies, if you're interested, these are usually fairly common on eBay. They're usually not a hard time finding them. So you should have fairly good luck if you're interested in the Jerusalem Bible. Otherwise, Bible Buddies, any questions or anything, feel free to leave them down below. Until next time, bye.